Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to talk about this, the 7-inch Primaris Bandai action figure. Now, this was announced last Friday, and to be honest, it just kind of passed me by a little bit. It was one of those things that was, in a way, similar to the Funko Pop stuff we've seen before, whereby I looked at it and I went, yeah, sure. But I thought rather than labour the point, as I did before with the Funko Pop stuff, that if you like it, great. If you don't, just ignore it, which is what I was planning to do. I kind of skimmed over it and didn't really think that there was any point talking about it. But enough of you have got in touch with me, and enough of you have asked if I've seen this stuff to essentially make me take a second look at this. And to be honest, I've perhaps changed my mind a little bit. I'm maybe not quite as lukewarm to this. I'm not quite as completely, just not bothered. I mean, I quite like this stuff, to be honest. And I think I like it for a couple of different reasons. But I mean, the action figure by itself, it's obviously a render at the moment, but it looks pretty much completely true to, the tabletop version of a Primaris model. Bandai, as far as I'm aware, have got a good reputation for the action figures they produce, and it's one of those things whereby it might not be aimed at me, but I can see the appeal in it. Like, it's not something that I would turn down. It's not something I think I'd actively go out and buy necessarily, but I can see the value in it at least. And there is, let's face it, a vast market in terms of collectible action figures and stuff that this will undoubtedly tap into a little bit, and I'm sure that is like 99% of the motivation behind it. It looks to be pretty good. It's just not one of those things I'm massively fussed about, but I can understand why people would be. And to be honest, the idea of having a massive version of a Space Marine rather than a tabletop size one, it does just have that little thing in the back of my head that's like, that'd be good for some people. But then there's like a tiny, tiny voice that's like, yeah, but would you get it? You probably would get it, let's be honest. If you had the opportunity, if you had that spare cash lying around, you probably would, wouldn't you? And if I'm honest, it might happen eventually. But that's fine. That's good. The thing that surprised me actually about this stuff is not the action figure, because that's fine. It's all good. It's these guys. See, I wasn't at all fussed about the Funko Pop stuff. In fact, I think my overall reaction was they exist, and that was it. Like, there's just wasn't interested. It didn't do anything for me. It wasn't that I dislike them or that I hate them or that there's something wrong with them or that they shouldn't be what they are. They're just not for me. Like, I just don't have any compulsion to collect them. I don't find them, to be honest, that visually appealing. I think it's because there's like an air of reskin about them in a way, which, I mean, that could be very well just like an unfair statement, but I think because there is a uniform shape and what seems a fairly uniform pose, it kind of feels like each one is very similar but different, and the overall detail level isn't something that really grabs me. It's one of those things whereby, if you collect them and if you want them, then knock yourself out. I'm never going to tell you that you shouldn't do the hobby that you do, because that's nonsense. But personally, they've just never been something that have particularly interested me. These, on the other hand, I actually don't mind these. I think these look pretty good, and I think it's because of the extra detail. Yeah, the proportions are like incredibly cutesy. Like, there's a massive cute overload, especially with the Inquisitor down there. That is just undeniably cute, complete with the little like frowny face that's going on. Excellent. I think because there is overall like a nice level of detail on these things, and they do have different poses. They do have they're more visually distinct from each other, I think, is the thing. Like, it's something about the overall like silhouette and appearance of them is just more pleasing to the eye for me than the Funko Pop stuff. So whilst I don't particularly care about those, and I don't think I would ever pick any of them up, these I could see myself like every now and again just being like, well, I've got enough stuff to put together. I've got enough stuff to paint for armies. I don't think I really need to grab another model just yet. There's nothing that's going out of production that I need to pick up right now. I could get one of those guys. I can see myself building up like a very slow collection of this type of thing, depending on how many of them there are in total by the time they're finished doing this stuff, I can easily see myself picking a few of these up just as and when, just like when there's nothing else to come out of the hobby budget for that month, just picking up a Space Marine or a Sister of Battle or something, just the occasional like impulse purchase. That wouldn't happen with the Funko Pop stuff, but these to me look kind of visually interesting enough and detailed enough and different enough that I could actually see myself picking them up here and there. Again, it's not one of those things where I'm like, absolutely, like, they need to be out right now, I need to buy them immediately, all of that stuff. It's not at that level, but I have, I think, more of an understanding as to getting these than the others. And again, it's not like a judgment thing. No one should ever care what someone else spends their money on, but these definitely kind of hit the spot a lot more than the Funko Pops do. To be honest, I just don't see a downside to this stuff. Even if it's not for me, even if it's not something that I'm absolutely, desperate to buy and feel like I have to have in my life, even if they're not things that I absolutely kind of, I'm desperate to own, I still like that it's being done. I still like that Games Workshop is pushing 40k out. It is trying to increase it's just trying to increase awareness of the universe, of the game, of the property, and I don't think that's ever something to complain about. And I have seen a few people who are like, why are they wasting their time on stuff like this? And I don't think necessarily that they are. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I could be way off the mark here, and if anyone has any expertise in this, do let me know. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when it comes to stuff like this, it's not like a Games Workshop headed operation, so to speak. I would imagine, and from what little I know from people that I've spoken to, and when I used to do web design stuff, and the various companies that I spoke to back then, there was the occasional thing where there'd be collaborations between companies that I'd be on the periphery of. And for the most part, from what I understand, it's not like Games Workshop is sitting down and going, well, we're not going to work on a brand new army, we're not going to make new models for Eldar, instead we're going to make little chibi figures. Instead, it's an actual partnership whereby they essentially send over the stuff that is required for their intellectual property, for the guidelines for representing that property, and Bandai do the work and then go, is this okay? Is this what you envision? Does this fit? And then Games Workshop can go, yes, that's fine, or they can go, no, you need to change this, and then Bandai go away and do that. It's not like Games Workshop is sitting there and the production of games and models and updates and rulebooks and codexes are falling by the wayside because they're making an action figure. They're not making the action figure, that's Bandai. They're not making the chibis. That's, again, it's not them, it's the company they partner with. It's one of the reasons why a lot of the time, even if you don't like the Warhammer 40,000 games that come out, visually, the units are spot on, because the companies are given, the template, but they're given the stuff they need to accurately recreate the tabletop models and the stuff that Games Workshop has designed, and they go away and make it, and if it's dead on, then great. If it's not, then they have to go back and do it again. I mean, one of the things that is impressive about the Warhammer 40,000 video games is that when you look at them, even if you don't like the games themselves, visually they are pretty damn close. They're pretty damn spot on to what you see on the tabletop. Even if you don't like Deathwing, you cannot deny that the Terminators, they look exactly like tabletop Terminators. Dawn of War, you may not enjoy Dawn of War 3, but visually, the stuff that's in it is pretty spot on. It's the same thing with most of the 40k games. When it comes to adhering to the visual design of their stuff, Games Workshop does not fuck around. It needs to be recognisable, it needs to be distinctive, and that's what these are. I mean, yeah, there is a bit of a change in things like proportions. There has to be for that kind of figure to work, but they are all recognisably Games Workshop figures. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Games Workshop has spent a shed load of time designing them themselves. That's not really their responsibility in this instance. At least that's how I understand it works anyway. If someone has more insight into that, then do do say so in the comments, because to be honest, this side of thing is always interesting to me. When it comes to collaborations between companies like this, it is kind of interesting to see what they come out with and how close they are to the original designs, while still being able to change them as significantly as they need to make things like this work. But I'm really just not against anything that pushes 40k out there a bit more with stuff like this, and just increasing awareness of it as a whole. It's just going to make things grow. It's just going to make things bigger, make things better, and hopefully mean that essentially the game and the models that we enjoy buying and painting and playing with, we just have more and more of, and to a higher quality, which I don't think is something to particularly complain about. So yeah, I quite like these. Quite like the action figure. Might not be necessarily for me, but I'm happy they exist, and hopefully they do get 40k out there even more than it already is. Just don't think there's anything to complain about here at all. Let me know what you think of these things in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon video, subscribe, all that shit. Click it if you like, don't click it if you don't want to, and I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.